Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life.
Hello everyone, namaste. So the subject of gambling is very topical right here in Colorado, and that gave me the idea to make a podcast about it. First of all, in Colorado, we didn't have gambling at all, formally, and then at a certain point, gambling was limited to casinos in 3 former mountain towns. Totally changed the character of those mountain towns from small former mining towns to huge casinos and busloads of people heading up there, especially on the weekend. But then in 2019, voters approved no-limit sports betting, especially on phone-based apps, and that changed everything. So now we're starting to see lawmakers looking for some limits, with 2 bills that have just gone through Colorado's Senate Finance Committee. There's SB 117 to end Colorado's online lottery, put the lottery back to scratch tickets like it used to be, because online lottery games start to look like regular gambling products, and if you can also use your credit card, that's increasing the financial risk, especially to low-income players. So that's one of the bills. The other is Senate Bill 131, which is aimed at restraining the state's sports betting industry with limits on television sports betting ads to reduce the exposure to vulnerable populations, bans on player prop bets, and deposit limits to hopefully prevent compulsive betting and minimize loss-changing behaviors. As Les Bernal said, who's the national director of Stop Predatory Gambling, a Massachusetts-based organization, he says online gambling is gambling fentanyl. That's what it is. Well, say I, this is doubtless true, because we're adding the age-old gambling disorder to the new phenomenon of internet addiction disorder. So what is gambling disorder? The DSM-5 gives these points as the symptoms of gambling disorder. Frequent thoughts about gambling, like reliving past gambling or planning future gambling. Wow, it sounds like me with cooking. But I have cooking order, not cooking disorder, I promise you. Needing to gamble with increased amounts to achieve the desired excitement. Repeated unsuccessful efforts to control, cut back on, or stop gambling. Restlessness or irritability when trying to cut down or stop gambling. Gambling when trying to escape from problems or negative mood or stress. And then loss chasing after losing an item of value by gambling, feeling the need to continue to get even. More of that anon. Often gambling when feeling distressed. And then again, after losing money on gambling, again chasing one's losses. Whether you lose an item of value or whether you lose money, chasing one's losses. Lying to hide the extent of gambling involvement. Losing important opportunities like job or school achievements or close relationships due to gambling, and relying on others to help with money problems caused by gambling. So we're going to see all of these features in the gambler personified in the Rig Veda, the world's oldest sacred text. So here is the Dyuta Sukta, the ode to the dice, in the 10th book of the Rig Veda. So something that is thousands of years old, and we're using H.H. Wilson's beautiful translation of the Rig Veda, where a gambler, addressing the dice that have ruined his life, finally begs the dice to spare him. Ready? The gambler. These nuts that once tossed on tall trees in the wind, I should say, the dice back then were made from bibitaki fruits, which are called as nuts, but they're a dried fruit, and they're actually part of the 3 fruits that make up triphala. The gambler. These nuts that once tossed on tall trees in the wind, but now smartly roll over the board, how I love them. As alluring as a draught of soma, the intoxicating beverage on the mountain, the lively dice have captured my heart. My faithful wife never quarrelled with me or got angry. To me and my companion she was always kind. Yet I've driven her away for the sake of the ill-fated throw of a die. Chorus. His wife's mother loathes him. His wife rejects him. He implores people's aid, but nowhere finds pity. A luckless gambler is no more good than an aged hack to be sold on the market. Other men make free with the wife of a man whose money and goods the eager dice have stolen. His father and mothers and brothers all say, he's nothing to us, bind him, put him in jail. And the gambler again, I make a resolve that I will not go gaming, so my friends depart and leave me behind. But as soon as the brown nuts are rattled and thrown, to meet them I run, like an amorous girl. And the chorus? To the meeting place the gambler hastens. Shall I win? He asks himself, hoping and trembling. But the throws of the dice ruin his hopes, giving the highest scores to his opponent. Dice, believe me, are barbed. They prick and they trip. They hurt and torment and cause grievous harm. To the gambler they are like children's gifts, sweet as honey, but they turn on the winner in rage and destroy him. 53 strong, this band jumps playfully like Savitri, the god whose statutes are true. They pay no heed to the anger of the powerful. The king himself bows down before them. Downward they roll, then jump in the air. Though handless, they master those who have hands. Unearthly coals thrown on the board, though cold, they burn the player's heart to ashes. Abandoned, the wife of the gambler grieves. Grieved too is his mother as he wanders to nowhere. Afraid and in debt, ever greedy for money, he steals in the night to the home of another. He is seized by remorse when he sees his wife's lot beside that of another with well-ordered home. In the morning, however, he yokes the brown steeds, and at the evening falls stupid before the cold embers. The gambler to the dice. To the mighty chieftain of your whole band, the one who has become the king of your troop, to him I show my 10 fingers extended. No wealth do I withhold, I speak truly. The chorus. Steer clear of dice, till well your own field, rejoice in your portion, and value it highly. See there, O gambler, your cattle, your wife. This is the counsel of the noble Savitri. And the gambler says to the dice, grant us your friendship. Have mercy upon us. Do not overwhelm us with your fierce attack. May your anger and evil intention be assuaged let the brown dice proceed to ensnare another. Let this someone else, but not me, have this problem. Maybe not so charitable, but that's where it ends. A pretty perfect description of everything we just read in the DSM-5 about gambling. Well, there's another super important ancient text, and that is the great epic, the Mahabharata, sometimes known as the story of India. It's the core myth, and it features the sons of Pandu and the Kauravas. The Pandavas, or the sons of Pandu, are the goodies, and the Kauravas are the baddies, but this is no cowboy film. There are innumerable shades of grey, and the Pandavas, though good, have their human weaknesses. This is a very nuanced and complex text. And the eldest brother of the 5 Pandavas is Yudhishthira. He is the son of Dharma, so he is generally a very upright person, an exemplary figure, but he has a fatal flaw. He does suffer with gambling disorder, and his gambling disorder plays a vital role in the Mahabharata. So the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they are Kshatriyas, they are of the warrior caste, they are the kingly people. So one of the rules of being a Kshatriya is that you cannot refuse a challenge to a game of dice, but having a weakness for gambling, but he has a weakness for gambling, so he's supposed to accept the challenge, no doubt. It's kind of like, instead of going to war, let's do this on the gambling board instead. But because Yudhishthira has this weakness, he is known to suffer from this gambling disorder. He can't stop chasing his losses until he has nothing left to lose. So he's challenged to a game of dice by members of the Kaurava clan. And one by one, he stakes everything he values. His jewels, his ornaments from his treasury, his brocades and fine clothes, then his gold and silver, then his livestock, his horses, his armies, then his slaves and servants and the courtesans, then his lands, his capital, and his incredibly beautiful, cherished palace. And he's playing against an older player and someone experienced with dice. And though Yudhishthira is known to have this gambling addiction, he doesn't normally play dice. So Shakuni keeps rolling the dice and winning everything. And Yudhishthira won't stop. He keeps on and on chasing his losses. He gambles away each of his 4 younger brothers. We're talking Bhima. We're talking Arjuna. We're talking some of the greatest heroes of all time being gambled away with a game of dice. He finally gambles away himself. What has he got left? He still hasn't won anything. He's got to chase his losses. Shakuni says, well, what about your wife Draupadi? Draupadi is the shared wife of the 5 Pandavas. She is in a polyandrous marriage with the 5 Pandavas, and she is actually the soul wedded to the 5 senses. And he stakes her. And he loses her. And they go to her palace and they fetch her. She's on her period. She's just wearing a single, simple sari. She's in her inner apartments. They drag her out. They drag her to the hall where the gambling is happening. and they proceed to shame her by publicly stripping her. Except an amazing thing happens, because she remains centered. She remains one who has full faith in God. However much cloth they pull off her, they can never unclothe her, because we can never really unpack the soul or the self. But still, it's an unprecedented humiliation for Draupadi before the full assembly of all these warriors. At this point, the head of the Kauravas, Dhritarashtra, the blind king, who we hear about in Bhagavad Gita, starts to see what's going on. And he says, this has to stop. We can't do this. He gives everything back to Yudhishthira that was lost in the gambling. No one can really calm Draupadi down, but she's no longer to be a slave. And the Pandavas are sent back with honor to their city. Happy ending. Duryodhana, the leader of the young generation of the Kauravas, the son of the blind king Dhritarashtra, is just enraged. He really wanted the Pandavas to lose everything because he was jealous of them. So he forces another bet on them. And again, the dice are rolled. And again, Yudhishthira loses to Shakuni. And as the terms of this wager, the Pandavas, including Draupadi, go into exile for 12 years in great peril, living incognito. It's a whole massive amount of the Mahabharata describing their incognito lives. And that sets in motion the events that ultimately lead to the cataclysmic battle of Kurukshetra. An absolute cataclysm which brings to an end the Dwapara Yuga, the age of the great heroes, and initiates the time we live in now, the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, the age of quarrel and discontent. Wow. So we can see that in Vedic times they well understood gambling disorder, what its symptoms were, and the grave dangers that could come about not just for the individual, but for the family of that individual and for society as a whole. But in those ancient times, although the dangers of gambling were so well understood, in the real world, they did not try to prohibit it, because prohibition would just lead to illicit backroom gambling dens, where there's also drinking of hard liquor, there's also abuse of women and all kinds of other horrible things happening in these back rooms. So they tried to organize and regulate gambling very much as was done when the casinos were set up in the 3 former mining towns here in Colorado. Gambling was confined to gambling halls, where the winnings were taxed, the gambling was supervised, cheating was punished, and the stakes were regulated so no one could become completely destroyed. Well, today, a fateful throw of the dice is probably not going to set in motion a chain of events that leads to World War III. But gambling disorder continues to be cataclysmic for families and their communities. So now let's look at how Ayurveda can help with recovery from gambling disorder. So for any mental health concern in Ayurveda, we use what's known as Trivida Chikitsa. We use a 3-pronged approach. Daiva Vyaprashai, spiritual remedies. Yukti Vyaprashai, carefully thought out herbal remedies and so on. And Sattva Vajaya, counseling or psychotherapy. So this three-pronged approach is what we'll use for helping people to recover from gambling disorder. Daivya Vyaprashai is going to include chanting the mantra. We like to chant the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, the healing mantra. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandham Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshi Amamritat. That's the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. You can chant it at home. You can come to the ashram on Monday nights for chanting it together at Alandi Ashram. Along with that, fire ceremonies like doing Agnihotra, the sunrise-sunset fire ceremony, which we do here at Alandi Ashram. You also actually can do it at your home, although it does take a great deal of discipline and effort to institute it. And along with Agnihotra, doing Homa, so using a little fire and offering with the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. With every time we chant the mantra, we say Swaha. We offer a spoonful of ghee into that small fire, in that small fire pot. So these are all things you can participate in for your healing here at Alandi Ashram by coming on Monday evenings for chants for world peace and healing, which are also healing for you. And if you're really interested, by getting on our list to be notified when we have a big fire ceremony, super intense and super healing. Another type of Daivya Vyaprashai is going on pilgrimages. And you might think, what does that mean? I have to go all the way to India? Or where can I go on a pilgrimage here? Well, there's always somewhere to go on a pilgrimage. You could take a tour to any of your local Hindu temples or do a temple crawl, go one temple to another. Here nearby in Colorado, we have Mother Cabrini's Shrine as an absolutely wonderful place to go for pilgrimage. You can take a pilgrimage by going to the mountains with a sense of reverence and sacredness and awe. There's many different ways we can go on pilgrimage. So chanting mantras, doing ceremonies, going on pilgrimages, this is what's known as the Daivya Vyaprashai, or spiritual therapies, which are extremely valuable in helping us to recover from different dependency disorders. Really do help us find a completely new balance in our dopamine reward system. Then there is Yukti Vyaprashai. Yukti Vyaprashai is the rational application of therapies, taking into account all the different variables, multiple variables involved. And this comes in two parts, as we've discussed before, Shaman and Shodhan. For Shaman, we're going to use nervine herbs to rebalance the nervous system. We're going to give vata soothing therapies, and we're going to provide a nourishing diet that will also help to rebalance the nervous system. That's going to be really good, but if you are in recovery from a severe disorder, you almost certainly need to do Shodhan as well, basically panchakarma, a setting aside a chunk of your time to do a deep reset through cleansing practices followed by rasayan or rejuvenation practices. That's the best way to get a total reset, which again will do a fantastic job on rebalancing your dopamine reward system, rebalancing your HPA axis, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, because your whole nervous system got imbalanced by being in the clutches of the brown dice or their equivalent. And then the third of the three prongs is known as Sattva Vijaya, or psychotherapy, helping the Sattva guna to be increased and the Rajas and Tamas to be decreased. And for that, you certainly want to be getting into some kind of actual psychotherapy with a licensed therapist, and especially cognitive behavioral therapy is highly recommended for recovering from gambling dependency disorder. But we're also going to use yoga, pranayama, and meditation. So we're going to try to get on a path of coming back home to ourselves, centering ourselves through yoga, through pranayama, but most of all through developing a practice of meditation, mindfulness, awareness, insight meditation, very simple meditation for befriending ourselves. So through this three-pronged approach that Ayurveda offers in the Trivida Chikitsa, we actually can recover from the gambling disorder and get our life back on track. Namaste.
Thank you for tuning in to Ayurveda and Spirituality with Alakananda Ma. We hope today's exploration has ignited a spark of curiosity and insight within you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. For more enlightening discussions and practical wisdom on Ayurveda and spirituality, subscribe and join our Facebook group, Alundi Ayurveda. To allow us to continue sharing valuable content, consider donating to Alundi Ashram. The links will be in the show notes. Until next time, may you walk the path of Ayurveda with grace and embrace the light of spiritual wisdom in your journey.
Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivadano